revised because of the ongoing this BBI issue. We don't want to mix the party election with this one here. So we said we will postpone them until we are finished with this issue of BBI, because we don't want to hold party elections in the midst of this. There's a lot of acrimony in party elections. So we will revise. Is there a new date for the ODM elections? We are going to have a NEC, National Executive Committee meeting, which will review and then set up a new date. Okay.
Any steps you've taken to avoid a repeat of the past? The ODM elections have been pretty chaotic. The next ones that will come, have you taken any steps to ensure that they will be orderly, that they will be fair?
You see, it's not being chaotic. There have been issues in elections, and this cut across all political parties. Others do not have many members, so there's not much wrangling. That's why they can quietly hear you are told such party has already finished its elections. But ODM elections is a general, almost like a general election. So we set up a task force last year, led by Mrs. Muma, to look into the party generally. What is it that is wrong? Why did we not perform very well, for example, in parliamentary elections and in civic and in so on and so forth? And why were there issues in the nomination? Nomination was one of the causes. But this is not only us. Even the Labour Party of the UK found that their nominations were a problem. That's why they're losing elections to the Tories. Then
will you address concerns that there is corruption that goes on in the nomination process of the ODM party?
It's not
that candidates have to offer an envelope to get nominated.
It's not true. In maybe isolated cases. But what is happening is that there's too many, because in some places the nomination is almost the election. So the stakes are very high, and therefore people hire goons, for example, to block their opponents from participating in the elections, or hijack the presiding officer, or burn ballot papers, ballot boxes, and things like those. So we have found a way of dealing with that. And we've also realized, remember, the coalition which we were having also made us lose a number of seats. Because like here in Nairobi, all of our parties are fielding candidates. ODM is fielding, Ford Kenya, Wiper, and ANC. And we are sharing votes. And in that way we lost to Jubilee. Not only in Nairobi, I'm just giving the example of Nairobi. In several other places, even in Western Kenya and in Kisii, in some other places which are very obvious areas where we could have won seats, but because we were all campaigning against each other. And we were, take for example Langata constituency, our candidate lost with 200 votes. Our hyper candidate got 5,000 votes. So we have done the postmortem and look at how we lost the seats and what is it that we can do to revamp the party. We have also said we must get the youth more involved in the management of the party affairs, and women, okay? So we must give them opportunity. So what happens is that the incumbents don't want to be challenged. They will tell you that, oh, we just want to do harmonization. Those who have defected, those who have died, let's just fill those positions. They said, no, you must have genuine elections. You must allow the upcoming people to get involved in the party elections so that they can also have opportunity to get experience.
Now, a completely different question. You are the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure. Does it bother you that we as a country spend so much of our tax revenue servicing debt owing to, mega size infrastructure, like the SGR, for example, like in the financial year of 2018, 2019, out of a total of expenditure of 2.4 trillion, 375 billion went towards servicing loan repayments. Does this bother you?
You mean in Africa?
I'm talking about in Kenya. The kind of infrastructure that we invest in leaves this country, highly indebted.
Yes. Yes, it is true that we are spending a lot of money on paying the debts. The issue is it value for money, and that's a big question.
Is it, in your view?
It is a big question, because I think that some of these have been inflated. When I became Minister for Roads and Public Works, I found when the rate of doing a standard tarmac road 1 kilometer was 50 million shillings. I moved in and I did my own due diligence, and I reduced it to 20 million shillings per kilometer, and even widened the gauge. So we are getting better quality roads at a much less than 50% of the cost. See? So that reduced the general costs, and we were able to finance. Then we also did improvement in terms of our revenue collections. I tell you what's happened in this country. You see, there are two issues you must address: the issue of revenue collection and the issue of expenditure. You see, the revenue officers are the boys in town. They are the ones who are buying apartment blocks. They're the ones who are driving the latest models of cars. They're the ones who are building castles in rural areas. They're the ones who are building skyscrapers in the village buckets. Okay? If you do due diligence, you'll find that all that money is money which has been acquired irregularly or corruptly. Revenue officers, that is, no, not revenue, the procurement officers are seconded to each ministry from Treasury. All of them have got their private companies which are procuring on behalf of the government, and they are procuring at inflated prices. So when we got into government with Kibaki initially, we sent all of them home and did due diligence, only retained the good ones. Then the collection went up, and the collection went up, and the expenditure, I mean the rate at which we were buying also went down. So all of a sudden, we had sufficient money to do our development.
So you feel there's more corruption now?
Yeah, of course. We were 95% of our capital expenditure was domestically generated. We were only borrowing 5%.
You mentioned the revenue officers, but what about the big boys and maybe girls? Who else is eating?
You see, what has happened here is that at the end of this new constitution, they have created two layers of bureaucrats. The ministers are technocrats. Then the permanent secretaries are also technocrats. So they're even competing who is the returning officer, or sorry, the accounting officer in the ministry. Okay? And they are not going to parliament to be accountable. You know, when we were there, ministers were members of parliament, okay? They were politicians. So they were only dealing with policies. And we had got professional permanent secretaries who were recruited by the Public Service Commission, who are doing the management of day-to-day affairs of the ministry. They are as accounting officers.
So do you feel the Jubilee government is failing?
Therein lies the problem. That's why they have this problem. And see, you take, for example, the SGR. See, when we left the government, we had already awarded it to the company. You see, it was a grand coalition government project. We conceived it, we did the feasibility study, design, tender, and we awarded it at $2.7 billion. When they came in, they cancelled it and then retendered. They awarded it to the same contractor, but at $3.5 billion. Then it went to $4 billion. It went to $4.3 billion. No wonder the rate of payment is high.
Why do you think, why the big difference between what you had achieved through your tender and what the Jubilee government has done? What's going on? Why that suddenly sharp, which the taxpayer has to pay for?
Go and ask them.
But you sit with them.
But what I'm saying is that at that time, I think they will tell you.
They don't tell you yourself openly in your private conversations with them?
I don't want to speak for them. But I think that is one of the issues, things that we are trying to correct.
Now, just talking briefly.
But the thing is that, in Africa, infrastructure is a major challenge. And that's why, I'm dealing with Trans-African highways, Trans-African high-speed railway, the open skies, the water transport.
But our neighbors are doing in Ethiopia, in Rwanda, I think even in Tanzania, they're not paying as much as Kenya is.
Yeah, so that is what we must ask ourselves.
No, that's what I should ask you.
It is not right.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, because I have been myself Minister for Energy, I've been Minister for Roads, Public Works and Housing. And I'm just saying that it does not have to be what it is. And I think that's why the President is angry and saying that this animal must be slayed. Okay? So
the President is angry, you say they're eating, so who's responsible?
So what I'm trying to say, that's the one we want to deal with.
Who is this?
No, I'm just saying that animal is the one we want to deal with.
Is that animal a person?
I don't know. But
there cannot be wildlife, right?
We all accept that there is a challenge.
Right.
Okay? It's a challenge. And
so in your view, the President recognizes this?
Because he recognizes.
Why can't he do something about it?
He's done a lot of work. What he's done, for example, he's revamped some of these institutions. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Directorate of Public Prosecution, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations have all been revamped. You can see new faces who are actually very committed.
Are you confident, therefore, that things will improve?
I think that things are definitely changing. You can see some changes happening. Now there's this other side, the investigations and prosecutions are being done. The other side now you have got the Judiciary, which also requires reforms.
What's the problem with the Judiciary?
There are challenges there. First, they are blaming funding only. They're giving you so many excuses why cases are taking too long. But you ask yourself why, because they've got special cases, for example, for corruption. But they are not hearing these cases speedily. You find cases doing rounds. Take example, for example, this case of the Akashas. If they were here, they would still be free men. The Akashas were actually getting police protection. I've seen police in front of their houses, their homes in Mombasa. Okay? They're taken to the US. Within no time, they have confessed. They mentioned the people they were bribing, including the Judiciary, to keep them out. Okay? So now, right now, somebody's arrested, you've got a batteries of lawyers, some of them members of parliament, rushing to go and defend them. Then now, they should not sleep in remand. They are sick. They have been taken to Kenyatta or Nairobi. The court is so quick in giving bail to get them out of the, you see. Then they just go out, and then the case will never be heard until evidence is lost.
You seem to be describing a broken system, a lot of corruption, as you mentioned, in the judiciary, in awarding of tenders and things like that. Do you offer advice? Definitely.
I always offer advice. See, I saw the Deputy President saying that the opposition is dead. It's not. Opposition is very alive in Parliament. what was happening?
But
But
half a leg is in the opposition, the other half is in government with BBI. That is yourself.
I'm saying that the other time I used to talk from outside and highlight areas of corruption publicly. I used to challenge the government directly. Now I can tell them things have gone wrong here and there, and action is being taken. You see, so it's more effective this way, that they are taking action quickly to arrest the situation. Okay? But what you want is to institutionalize it so that you've got a system that is working. Okay? So I have sympathy with the judiciary. They face certain challenges, I've told them, but they also require reforms to be able to deal with these cases speedily, and also to ensure that there are some convictions. Because right now there are so many of these cases pending before the judiciary. There are no convictions. They keep on deferring them. And some of those who are doing this are being promoted. Some of those very judges who are guilty of corruption are getting promotions. So there are certain things that we need to change. Okay? Because like Judicial Service Commission consists just of judges. Okay? so they are oversighting themselves. Okay? So the Judicial Service Commission also need to be reformed. Just like
these are issues BBI might address?
Yes.
Now, what do you think, who or what might be the biggest stumbling block to BBI, in your view?
Personal considerations. The people who look at how is this going to affect me or my chances going forward. These are some of the people. Because you remember, in 2010, when we were passed the new constitution, we had the Reds and the Greens. Okay? We were taken to a very difficult campaigns to get the constitution passed. Now you'll find that some of the people who are opposing that constitution are now telling you that there is nothing wrong with it. That is quite okay. You just now want to create jobs for the people. So that basically shows you the hypocrisy that exists in this country. We believe that if you bring changes, let's bring changes for the good of this society and for posterity, not to serve the interests of individuals. Like Raila Odinga is here today, he's not going to be there tomorrow. So we are not doing it for Raila, for Uhuru, or for anybody. We are doing it for the future generation of this country.
Now, as we come to an end, just one quick question about the world of sports. I know you're a big football fan yourself, and if I could start with Gor Mahia, one of the oldest football clubs in Kenya. They are struggling financially. You've been patron there for a long time. Can't you help?
I am having problems over that issue. I've told the president as much, that our sport is actually suffering. It's not just soccer, whether it is hockey.
The general administration of football in the country.
Not just administration, but the general administration of sports generally, whether it is athletics, whether it is rugby, whether it is hockey, whether it is soccer, basketball, and so on. They are all having problems. So Sport Pesa had issues, but at least Sport Pesa was helping some of these institutions. They were sponsoring. Now they are completely no sponsorship. So we are facing a situation where some of these clubs might just have to fold up. So I have raised this issue with the government. There's the sports fund, but there was also a problem. I think they were a board, but the board also want to be administrator. So there's a problem in disbursement of funds. The funds are not flowing properly to the institutions.